So I have a couple of questions before we throw open for the room. So I'm already seeing a lot of questions coming in the chat. I'd welcome more questions. So I'm triggered in both of your presentations. You speak of the lock-ins, that are keeping our food system in the status that it is now, of which we know that it is not delivering positive outcomes for everyone. It is for some people, but not from everyone. And I hear that coming back in both of your presentations. I also hear somehow that producers are becoming more aware that it would be handy, good, sustainable, long-term thinking to not use too much synthetic fertilizers, to think about sustainability principles. I'm also hearing about producers knowing that they shouldn't be deforesting, that it's not so smart on the long run. And I'm hearing the consumers also thinking, we want healthy food. We don't want to buy products that are causing deforestation. Somehow, in between them, there's still other values that are keeping us in this lock-in. And I hear many scholars, particularly in the Netherlands, that talk about transition. They talk about this transition pain. Yeah, when you're going through a transition, it's not going to be easy. There's a painful process there because the configuration of winners and losers in the food system is going to shift and alter. So that's a little bit where I would like to sort of come in and ask you these questions when we're talking about changing the rules of the game. Yeah. Do you feel, and this is both a question for Ellen and Mutuma, I'll ask Ellen to answer first. Do you feel that a change in policy is the most effective way to facilitate, trigger, or leverage behavioral change?
Yeah.
Do you think that policies are the most effective way to do that?
Yeah.
And if not, what would be another alternative ways from your experience?
Very nice reflection, and yeah, also a question, Herman. That's a good question because sometimes well, also being in Ghana, I thought, wow, this is all so complex. Maybe indeed I agreed, like with the start of, let's say, the European Green Deal, the recognition that, well, we have had so many trials. If we leave it to companies or NGOs, nothing's going to change. So maybe it should be in a legislatory, let's say, yeah, implied, so that at least there's a framework and it becomes obligatory. But then, yeah, observing what was really happening in the field, I don't, but how does that really change the practices? Now people start complying with a policy, but does it really change something on the ground? No, at a certain level, I was even wondering, because what is also a big risk in Ghana is the future of cocoa, not only relate because of climate change, but also because farmers are aging and young farmers don't want to enter or don't want to continue with cocoa anymore. It's struggling. And at a certain moment, I asked, like, in whose importance is it that we continue with cocoa? Yes, it's also part of the tradition, of the culture, of the DNA. But if it continues struggling, aren't we just all indeed setting this up to help companies continue sourcing and let European consumers continue eating chocolate? But if for the farmers, it might be more, I don't know, yeah, better to grow rice, to grow other things. Who is then actually deciding to what extent does this really help to a diverse, yeah, food system? Yeah, so that makes me, I do think it need policies and some legislatory framework does help to make actors comply, but maybe it should be more grounded. And yeah, like Matuma, you said, maybe it should start with those already trying to change things. I don't know, what do you think, Mutuma?
Yeah, that's a good question because well, in Kenya, what I've understood, because I'm also been involved in the policy framework, is that government usually writes policies that are that should be implemented over time, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Yeah. Then after policies, there are implementation strategies that are also within certain periods and wavelength. Now, for that to be taken up, it depends on the people in power. So if they are pro
Yeah.
pro development, and especially now in Kenya that we also have counties. some counties are able to pick it up faster than others. For example, the National Agroecology Strategy that was launched last year, it was a very interesting experience because I saw farmers get involved. I saw the market, consumers get involved. I saw the manufacturers also get involved. So meaning that these are well-rounded and agreed upon strategy, then some of the counties were able to take it up and work on them. Then you have something else called policy briefs that are like addendums to the larger policy, like the one that you were working on last week was on organic fertilizers and soils. So
Yeah.
nothing has been written about that before. So if that is clear and attached to a strategy and also a larger policy, works because these policies will outlive us. But then again, there's the issue of there are some policies that are driven by one sector. For example, we have the seed policy in Kenya where we it is illegal to share indigenous seeds. So you have only to buy hybridized seeds and also and when they when they can't produce more, you have to go back and buy them. So that has been challenged a lot, but then it goes to show that there are some people who are actually behind that. Of course, the big agriculture. So they made sure that that kind of policy was put in place. They did the lobbying, and then that has been in effect since I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something. But then it's now that people are realizing that it's actually legal. So they're trying to challenge that. So ideally, who should take the policy, who should take up the whole idea? Because again, this mammoth called policy is very ambiguous because so what you've written a policy. Yeah. So will you eat that policy or how will you trigger actual change?
Yeah.
So there are ways in which I've seen, for example, working with OFIMA, we want to sell our products to the farmers directly. That will help them improve their yield, that will help them improve their soils. And that has been happening. So the policy only comes in to prove and also to not get left behind so that we can showcase to the government and also how policies now get implemented. They need to be taken up by the right people, and so that it's also part of the law and whatnot. Yeah.
Nice one. Very nice reflections. Very nice reflections. And I see also some very nice reflections on this question coming back in the chat. Ashebi, for example, says that changing policies will not be sufficient. There needs to be an addition to the policies is education and awareness creation at all different levels so that people don't think that it's a coercive policy, but that it's actually a supportive policy that can engender a lot of change. I have 1,000 other questions. I think I should open up so that other people can also ask questions. So I know that there's been a number of things in the chat coming round. I'm just curious where we can find if somebody has been seeing a question that would be nice to share with both Mutuma and Ellen. I have not been able to.
Yeah, there's so many interesting ones, Herman. A lot of people indeed say, well, yeah, like agree with Mutuma that policy should be shaped and discussed at different levels. I see someone also saying that I also like that indeed the EUDR might hold big companies that are now, well, let's say, ruining or contributing to land degradation in the global south accountable. So in that sense, yeah, it might also have a positive effect. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. There's also some questions very specific to Mutuma and his entrepreneurship. I think I'm just going to go for a sort of open up the microphone. Anybody at this stage that has a question that is related to the topic food system transformation and that could be asked to both Ellen or Mutuma. Who has one? Focusing on food system transformation. Don't tell me that you folks have become shy now.
Can I share a question?
Please do so. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't find the hands rise. Sorry. But my question here is looking for the connection between how a policy like EUDR affecting a commodity like cocoa would affect the food system in both sides, in the origin, I mean in
Yeah,
the producer country, and also in the consumption, in the
mm,
consumer country. How and I wonder if when this policy were defined, they think in all the effect in both sides. I
yeah.
wonder in that.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Vas. So yeah, I agree. In my view, it's a bit disbalanced, because now it sees that now it is as if the burden of the regulation is, yeah, pushed down on the farmers. I think what is promised in return for being able to comply with all this regulation is a premium. So the idea is that prices in Europe will be higher, so that people will pay more for the chocolate. But I haven't seen it changed yet. And there's also rumors that again it's that the difference will be so small that it never compensates the farmer for all the extra work. So that's a actually good question. What is actually yeah, how does this impact the European food system, except for the fact that it doesn't contribute to deforestation outside Europe? You're very right. I think I also heard someone saying like, so Europe first deforested itself, and now it's
Yeah.
going to demand countries elsewhere to stop deforestation. I don't know. Do you know, Herman? Are there any reforestation initiatives in Europe? I don't know.
That's a tricky question. There are, of
Yeah,
course, reforestation initiatives, but if they can circumvent the damage that has been created, that is definitely the case. And obviously, I mean, cocoa is a great example where the Netherlands still keeps importing raw produce and adding humongous percentage of the value added
yeah,
in country. So
yeah,
most of the value addition takes place here. Most of the people that are benefiting from there are here, and then it gets distributed back into Europe. So there's a
yeah,
lot of elements there, and I'm curious to see how, there's been cocoa conferences for years where we've trying to address this issue, and some of the leading big top-notch cocoa producing companies, the names of which are called after planets, they just completely vetoed that meeting and they said, if you're going to talk about price distribution, we're not joining you. So again, power in the food system, interesting questions there. So I saw Kasim also had a hand up. Kasim, would you like to open your mic and ask your questions?
Sure. Thank you very much indeed. I'm Kasim from Somalia. Uh, I think you can hear me loud and
Perfectly.
clear.
Yes.
Thank you indeed. This is amazing presentation, both expertise, Ellen and also Mutuma. Thank you also the organizers. Mine is two questions. Two questions, one for Dr. Ellen and also one for Mutuma. For the one for Dr. Ellen is that uh, I have been observing and reading about the her presentation, deforestation. This is
yeah,
what we Somalis had been affected a lot of a couple seasons and where we have just experienced it according to the recurrent droughts and the crisis in Somalia while we are not coping and regaining our previous deforested trees. Even edible mangoes have been deforested here in Somalia. That is what we have experienced. And and I want to learn something about the European countries or the countries where you have experienced it and also where we have just received Dr. Ellen. Uh, Lessons learned from there, the deforestation, how the deforestation in place impacted the all small and large scale farmer just and what steps and measures did the administration take? Because administration should interfere always the deforestation or something just eroded the natural resources in place. It needs also rules and also policies in action. If
Yeah.
we produce some document is written some words to be translated in action. We have got here in Somalia some abundantly documents that stops the deforestation, and still the people are panning the charcoal and transporting to overseas.
Yeah.
Is there any action and just accountability in action from administration in there? And the other question is that following, how did the demand of the consumers of the natural resources, including the also the edible fruit producers like coca that you have just mentioned, uh, was the intentionally impacted and affected the deforestation measures? The second
Well,
question.
Kasim, wait, Kasim. Sorry, because you have already asked maybe five, six, seven questions in your. It was a very elaborate question that you asked. So I'm not 100% sure if we have sufficient time in what we remain here to answer full extent your question. I don't know, Ellen, if you're able to touch on a couple of elements that were asked.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'll try. And I find it very interesting question, and also to hear about Somalia, very interesting, because you're right. I think Mutuma also referred to it. Yeah, first of all, we need to know why deforestation happens, right? And sometimes it is because indeed they need firewood, or they, yeah, use products to sell, and there's no other opportunities. And good to see you. So if we well, just implementing regulations without acknowledging the many reasons why people deforest. And I've always also be wondering, in Ghana, I was positively surprised with the number of farmers that agreed that deforestation was actually harming their farms nowadays. That indeed, it started maybe unconsciously because they needed more land, so they burned down pieces of forest. But now they were also experiencing, like, wow, the droughts are becoming heavier. There's no stronger. There's no shade trees for our vegetables anymore. And that actually, well, gave me a positive feeling, because here in the Netherlands, I know there's also these discussions, especially with scale enlargement. There's huge, yeah, flat areas of land that nowadays, when it's dry and the wind blows, it dries even faster. But I find that our farmers are still quite stubborn. They keep pleading for more agrochemicals and intensive farming, rather than recognizing, like, hey, maybe we should, well, plant some trees in between the parcels. So yeah, I have the feeling like here should the administration should maybe play a bigger role. But as also many people in the comments say, yeah, apparently only with policy and administration, uh, we're not going to change it. So we need indeed examples of practices, but also maybe, well, support for, yeah, those that are farming to actually yeah, reforest or make profits from forestation. Yes. I'm also curious to your opinion, but Herman, I don't know whether we have enough time for that to.
No, thanks so much for the response, Alan, and thank you so much indeed, Kasim, for your very eloquent, in-depth question, because it touches on, how these type of issues, it's not a linear issue that you can just see a linear, it's a very systemic issue with many interrelated elements and many, let's say, components that are affected through lock-ins, through trade-offs, etc., etc. So it's always important not to just look at one part, the deforestation, but to see the complete picture and also understand the root causes behind the deforestation once thinking of a policy. So I think that's very important. I'd like to go for one last final question, and I've seen, I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Tiong has had a hand up for some time. So I'd love to get you the opportunity to ask your question. Please unmute and let us know what your question is. Not sure. I hope I'm reading your name right. It says Chong Achol. No. Not? Okay, I thought I saw
He
somebody.
also posted his question in the chat. It says, to Alan, how can food systems be used as accelerators to boost local economies in fragile contexts?
Yeah. Whew, that's a good question. Well, I think Mutuma is actually better placed to respond to it, as he's so is so grounded. Because my response would be really starting from indeed the livelihoods and the farming systems in place and understanding what problems are confronted. And maybe then the solution is not in a higher price for cocoa, but a diverse farm, of which maybe cocoa is not even part. But Mutumu, how would you respond? Well, let me repeat the question. Or you just, Bram, can you?
How can food systems be used as accelerators to boost local economies in fragile contexts?
Yeah.
You're on mute, Mutuma, if you.
Okay. That's interesting. How can food systems be used in to boost fragile environments or economies, or both?
Sorry?
How can food systems be used to boost
Accelerate and boost local economies in fragile contexts.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just give my experience based on what you are currently doing with a current children's home in a very dry part of where I come from. So the children there are not able to get a lot of food. And even before you talk about economies, we have to develop this farm. So how do you do it, especially in the food system setup? You cannot focus on going towards the market with one type of crop. You have to work with the soil, work with whatever you have. For example, if you're dealing with a soil that has no nutrients, you need now to start building the soil, making sure that the water, if it drains once a year, the water is able to percolate and feed the crops for a period of time. Because obviously, when you talk about a fragile environment, they do not have the capacity to bring in irrigation systems, dig boreholes. So one of the things that we can do there is use natural mechanisms to tap water that can be there, so that you can grow crops that are either indigenous to that place or crops that are hardy, mixing vegetables that can be taken up by the kids, and also some fruit trees, because some of the trees take a short time to mature. So that within a context of maybe 3 years, there is an ecosystem around that place where you also have a few chickens where they maneuver around the compound. You have some vegetables, you have some fruits, and then and only then can you now start thinking about going to the market. Because ideally, what happens is that in fragile environments, it can be either political environments that are very volatile, can be the climate being the problem, or can be just a lack of awareness. People have the resource, but they do not know how to use it. So it depends on how to on exact problem and how now you can bring it out of people so that they can use their own knowledge to be part of the change. Because if you go there as an NGO and give them aid, that will never work because it's not coming from them. And I'm sure you guys who are here can attest to that.
Great
So,
advice, Mutuma. Much appreciated. I think what you mentioned is always start with understanding the problem rather than just coming in with your predefined solution. You have to understand the root causes and the problem. And I hear you both saying game-changing solutions for food system transformation do not exist. We need trajectories of more than 1 year, more than just a simple solution that's going to change everything. We need to really track and trace how things move. Right, we're almost towards the end of this session. And as you know, all of these wonderful people that have been listening to us, unfortunately, we haven't been able to respond to all of your questions, but all of you are working and thinking about food system transformation in your daily lives. And I'm going to ask Ellen and Mutuma, from your experiences, if you were to share something with this wonderful group of people, something that they can take along as they're designing food system transformation pathways, what would you recommend, one or two things that you should never forget as you're designing transformation pathways to transform food systems? What are the two things that you should never forget? Ellen, very easy response here.
Oh, I wish I had prepared this. No, really centralize those that produce. They know best. They know how things work, and too many things are, well, designed top down. I think that's what I would, recommend. It's only one
Thank you
thing.
so much. Great, great, great. Very valuable. Mutuma, here to
Yes,
your thoughts.
thank you. So two things that I would ask you never to forget. Number one, observation. You can, have all the accolades, but if you never observe and also learn how people respond, you'll never really move forward, because it's through observation that you can deduce exactly what people need and how they respond to different things. Then number two is understanding our own biases. We need to understand our own biases, especially in whatever you're doing, because if we already have our own ideas in towards a certain problem, but then it's not us experiencing the problem, it's maybe the people there. You need to keep away your biases, or rather be aware of them, then listen to them and try to work around the whole concept. If you can have an idea, just put it out there, see if they appreciate, then build from there. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to both of you. Anybody that still has questions, please feel free to reach out to Ellen or Mutuma. You will find their contact details in their presentations. Bram, I'm giving it back to you, and I
Yes,
think
Elman.
we're a little bit over
Elman, let me
time.
interrupt you just 1 minute. 1 minute that I would like to ask Mutuma one request. Mutuma, we are Somalia and Kenya. We are a close bordering, and we have shared climate crisis, all resources, soil information, all things. And it was my challenge while you have came with the innovative and success innovation like insect trapping, and also the other innovations you came with. I am now taking a decision to just actionalize like those innovative you came with as peer learning. Can we just can you just support me for your ideas? This let me make use of this opportunity. Support me to innovate and also to start my own, because the people are nowadays in need for their own just innovationists and producers, to be producers and to sustain themselves and the livelihoods, not depending other sources. For through this food system, we would like you to support us. My Kasim is going to start my initiative, mocking you yourself. And I need really a request, a huge request from my end, to support me for your ideas. Thank you for the your university and the Netherlanders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kasim. I think Mutuma, you can react
Yeah,
to him,
yeah.
and Kasim, you can also reach out to Mutuma. His email address will be in the presentations that we will share after this plenary session. For now, I would like to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Mutuma, and thank you, Herman, also for hosting this and being a perfect moderator here as well.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day, everyone.
Thank you and
Thanks,
bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you.